Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Swamiji began this class by, if you want to go beyond anxieties, pain, death, and live your life in the most potent way, then you have to get Brahmgyan. You have to become Brahm realized. So today, make a resolve within your mind that I have to become Brahm realized in this life. Whether someone else was Brahm realized or not is not the question here. I have to become Brahm realized. And that's before I leave this body. It has to happen to me. That is the only way that I will fulfill this life's purpose. What you are not, you think you are. And what you are, you have yet to realize. So you must make the effort and the resolve that I have to realize who I really am. If I want to go beyond these struggles, these strifes, this coming and going all the time, because it's going to be the same next life. Don't think that it'll get better, I'll just live it out, it'll get better. It's not going to get better. The ups and downs, it's the same thing forever. So if you want to get out of that, you have to become Brahm realized. This, and Swamiji here read a poem, which is paraphrased as the following. This life belongs to those who belong to someone, referencing an enlightened guide. This life belongs to those who belong to someone, and they become lost and surrendered in their love. This life belongs to that person, that saint or enlightened being, and I become lost and surrendered in their love. Just like Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Sach kaho sun leho sabe, jin prem kiyo tin hi prabhu payo. That to love and to love unconditionally is the best way, the most exalted way for you to get mukt. There's a sakhi that Swamiji told here about Guru Gobind Singh Ji. They were sitting on a portable bed, a manja, and there was a dog sitting on the floor beside them. Bhai Nandlal Ji was coming, and Guru Maharaj did an indication here, you can sit on the manja. But Bhai Nandlal Ji said, no, I want to sit at your feet, Guru Maharaj. I've come to sit at your feet. And while Guru Gobind Singh Ji was having food, a little bit of their prashadda, their roti, they were breaking off and they were feeding it to the dog. Then they would have prashadda, then they would break off a little bit more and feed it to the dog, and the dog would happily eat. Bhai Nandlal Ji was watching this, and they asked Guru Maharaj, can I have a piece of your bread as well? I'm just like the dog. And Guru Maharaj says, no, Bhai Nandlal, you're not like the dog. Because the dog didn't ask for the bread, you're asking for the bread. All the dog did was, he sat at my feet, and he patiently waits for his master to give him a piece of bread. And that's what a seeker should do. Fall in love with the Guru, sit at their feet, learn from them, and then patiently wait. Because when you sit at the sanctuary of your Guru, you love them, you wait patiently, your Guru knows what you want, and the Guru knows when to give it to you. So our job is to love them unconditionally and wait patiently. Now moving on to Sidh Gosht. There are a few questions that the yogis asked, that the Siddhs asked, that Guru Maharaj answers. They are the following. Kavan so gupta, kavan so mukta, kavan so antar bahar jugta, kavan so ave, kavan so jaye, kavan so tripa van rahya samay. The Siddhs ask, kavan so gupta, kavan so mukta. For who is God hidden? Or rather, what exactly is hidden? Kavanaso Gupta. Gupta means that it's been hidden. Kavanaso Mukta. And who is free? Kavanaso Antar Bahar Jugata. Who is inside the body and outside the body in the cosmos? What is that thing that's inside and outside continuously? They're not asking that there's something inside and then there's something outside and it's connected. They're saying what is continuous inside and outside of the cosmos. Kavanaso ave, kavanaso die. Who comes into birth and then who leaves in death? Kavanaso tripa vanaraha samai. What is that thing? Who is interwoven into the fabric of the three worlds? The three worlds here meaning the states of awakening, dreaming, and deep sleep. What is interwoven right now as I'm awake? What is interwoven as I dream? What is also interwoven as I go into a deep sleep? What is still present continuously in the same way in all three of those states? And so the following are the answers that Guru Maharaj gives. Kata kata gupta gurumukh mukta. So the first question was, what is hidden? And for whom is it hidden? And then who becomes free? Who finally finds the hidden thing and becomes free? And then the answer is Kata Kata Gupta. Within the inner being of everyone is hidden Vaheguru. And we'll expand on this later. Swamiji here expanded here on the three states: awakening, dreaming, and deep sleep. Let's try to understand what these three are, and then let's try to understand exactly what we call samadhi. Awakening is what you're in right now, hopefully, if you're not falling asleep on me, is where the senses are working via the physical body, right? So right now I'm looking at the screen. I'm looking at it via my physical eyes. I'm using them to interact with the world. My 5 information collecting senses are working via the body, and my action centers are also working via the body. So I'm walking with my feet. I'm waving my hands. I'm moving my hands, but with my physical body hands, right? So everything is happening with the physical body. The dreaming state is where the mind becomes the senses and the sense targets. So in your dreaming state, the physical body is not doing anything, but the senses are still there. However, the senses are not working via the physical body. The mind itself is becoming the sense target. For example, when I look at this pencil, my target is a purple and gray, long-shaped cylindrical form. And it's tangible. I'm using my physical eyes to see this. This is the target of my eyes. Good. In my dream state, my mind is going to end up creating the target. My mind is going to end up creating the long purple gray cylindrical form. And my mind is also going to act like the sense that is capturing it, right? And the mind does this based on information that you collected while you were awake. So this is information you could have collected in your previous life while you were awake. You could have collected this information in this lifetime while you were awake. And the mind processes it and makes it something new and shows it in different ways in the dream state. Then when you go into deep sleep, this is the state where the physical and mental fluctuations, they go back into their seed form. So the senses are no longer functioning in the physical body, and the mind itself is not creating senses or sense targets. It has retreated into its seed form, and only ignorance remains in deep sleep. Then samadhi. Samadhi, or what we call the fourth state, is a state beyond the body, senses, mind, and intellect, where only consciousness remains. There's no ignorance either. However, I want you guys to understand this. Samadhi is not a reference to God. Samadhi is not a reference to pure consciousness. Samadhi is a reference to the collapse of everything that is blocking consciousness. So make that distinction. Samadhi is not a direct reference to consciousness, because even in awakening state and in your dream state and in your deep sleep state, consciousness is still on. It's not that it's off and it's only accessed in samadhi. Consciousness is still here. Samadhi does not refer to God or consciousness. It refers to the collapse of everything that is blocking consciousness from being perceived in its most direct way. So in samadhi, everything that blocks you from recognizing that you're merely consciousness, for example, body feeling, mind feeling, thought feeling, feelings, any type of your name, who you're related to, your status, how much money you have, your very primal ignorance, all of those things collapse and pure consciousness remains. So samadhi is a state where everything collapses that is blocking you from recognizing yourself as pure consciousness. Now, there's different levels of samadhi as well. We're not going to go into that today, but that's the general gist. In essence, however, God is found within, and the search has to be within. It's when everything collapses. See, think about it. If your body feeling is going to collapse and your mental fluctuations are going to collapse, everything has to collapse in order for you to have a direct experience of God. Then how can you find God outside? Everything is on when you're outside. When you're looking and you're searching within buildings, when you're searching within people, when you're searching within luxuries and comforts for God and for joy, everything is still on. Nothing is collapsed. Not your ego, not your identity, not your body feelingness, not your mental fluctuations, not your thoughts. Nothing's collapsed. In fact, everything, every possible obstacle is fully on. So God cannot be found on the outside. The search has to be inside, and it has to be done in a way that you get to a place of sunya. Sunya means where there's nothing. Everything has collapsed. And what remains is God. God can never collapse. So that's not something you have to worry about. But everything that can be collapsed has to be collapsed. And there's a Sakhi that Swamiji took, one of my favorite Sakhis, because first of all, it's pretty sick Sakhi. And number two, it's a woman. You finally get to see a female who's enlightened giving some teaching towards her action, with it through her actions. So Rabia is sitting outside teaching or doing something, and all of a sudden, she gets up and she starts to look for something. So in the previous days, you used to have huts, and outside of the huts there would be like a little pathway for water and all of the dirty stuff of the house to get out, right? It's canal. It's like a little canal for everything to go. She starts to search within the canals. She starts to search within the bushes and the trees and where there's just a bunch of dry grass. And everyone's like, what are you searching for, Rabia? And then she says something. She's like, don't ask me what I'm searching for. Or so that, sorry, that's not what she says. She's like, I'm looking for a golden needle. And they're like, oh, let us help you find it. The villagers come and they say, let us help you find it. They say, Rabia, where did you lose the golden needle? And Rabia says, don't ask me that question. You can't ask me that question. And the villagers are like, okay, Rabia's going crazy again. Because Bhagats usually seem crazy to non-Bhakti wale people. And so they're, okay, Rabia will just help you search. So they also start looking in these dirty canals. They start to look in the bushes and they're like, Rabia, this is ridiculous. If you lost a golden needle, you have to let us know where you lost it. And she's like, I'm not telling you where I lost it, and stop asking me that question. Eventually, she says, yeah, I lost it inside of my hut in a little treasure box, in a little closet. And the villagers like, what? You lost the golden needle inside of your hut, inside of a box that's sitting in there, and you're telling us, making us look in the dirty canals and outside in the bushes. Rabia, have you gone crazy again? And Rabia says, look, I was just copying you guys. I was just learning from you guys. She says, just because my hut doesn't have light in it and it's dark in there, I didn't go inside to look for the needle there. It was light outside. It was comfortable outside. So I started looking outside. Isn't that what you guys do? You lose Anand on the inside, but because it's a little uncomfortable, you haven't been there, it's dark, you don't bother looking there. But on the outside, everything is comfortable, it's light, it's familiar. So you start looking there because everybody else is doing the same thing. You look for Anand within other people. You look for Anand in luxuries, in items, in objects, in statuses, in attention, in approval from your relatives. You look for Anand everywhere except where it's not. I just learned from you and copied you, and I started searching for my golden needle where I didn't even lose it. So you search for Anand everywhere except where you lost it. And you run after people, after attention, after buildings, after status, after accomplishment, so you can feel something, so you can feel joy, and you can feel some kind of high from something. But what happens is, it was shiny when you ran towards it, and as soon as you touch it, it turns to dust. What you went after so hard, with so much of your time, energy, and effort, as soon as you get it, it starts to perish. It starts to turn into dust. But the joy that you're looking for, you lost it within you. And that's where you must search for it. You absolutely 100% can find it there. That is the only place that you can find it, within yourself. What you need to do is you need to dig out all of the blockages, open your heart, and there is a golden nectar, a waterfall of golden nectar, that of ecstasy that is flowing there endlessly. And it's your birthright to find this, but you have to remove all of the boulders that are in the way. So if you've read books of antiquity, there's a lot of talk of even video games are made on this, finding the fountain of eternal youth, or finding the waterfall of immortality. These ideas, these picturizations, are actually things of the inside that have been made into something else. But that immortal nectar is within you, and it's your birthright to find it. The problem is the pathway to this immortal waterfall, it's blocked with a lot of boulders. So Amiji here talked about to remove some of these boulders and access your heart, because you're not going to find it with your mind. At the level of the heart, what happens? How do we access this heart? Even right now, as you're sitting, you'll feel that there's tension inside of your body, that there's tension inside of your mind. These are the most physical representations of your constrictions and your tensions, but they're starting somewhere within you. But one thing that you can do is, inside of your mind and in your physical body, stop controlling. Stop thinking. Relax and let go. You'll actually feel your being very constricted. Your being is very here. And as you relax and you let go of all the constrictions in your muscles, all of the constrictions in your mind that say you have to do something, you have to do something, as you let go, you'll actually start to feel the relaxation come down to the level of the heart. And you'll start to breathe longer breaths. You'll breathe deeply. So remain in this state, and in this drowning experience, while you're drowning, stop thinking, stop controlling. Experience what is alive within you, what is always on within you, what is merely consciousness, free and unbound. What is the knower? Not the mental knower, not the thoughts, but when you completely stop thinking, and when you completely stop and completely let go, what still remains alive? What is that consciousness? That's where you have to get to. Tad Brahm Aham Iti Gyatva. Basically, Sanskrit version of saying, I am that Brahm. If I know my Atma as Brahm, I will become Brahm. That superior cosmic consciousness is me. Kat Gupta, Gurumukh Mukta. So how does this consciousness, how do I fully and finally experience this? The answer is Gurumukh Mukta. The one who sits at the feet of the Guru and does three things. Number one, listens and believes, which we categorize as Sravan. Listening and believing 100% with full resolve that what my guru has said, that's it. There's nothing ahead or behind it. That's it. That statement is it. This is Shravan, listening and believing fully. Then number 2 is contemplation. What my guru said, now I have to dig it out inside of me. And I have to make sure that no matter what blockage I come across, it's my guru's statement that always comes out to be true. In Manan, what happens is you use, so that's when we do Shravan Manan Nidhyasan, basically what you do is you use techniques within your mind. It's called, what was it called? भेद बाधक युक्तियां और अभेद साधक युक्तियां. 2 different types of techniques you use in contemplation, or what we categorize as manan or manaya. Everything that helps you reach oneness, that Atma is Brahm, that I am that cosmic consciousness, you dig that, you take that technique and you go in further with it. And everything within your mind that tells you that you are not Brahm, that you cannot be this cosmic consciousness, you slash that. This is how contemplation happens. Every time any type of mental fluctuation you come across or vritti you come across that is helping you understand I am Brahm, I cannot be the body because I watch the body. If I watch the body, I can't be the body, therefore I'm not the body. This is abhed sadhak, meaning it is helping you merge. It is helping you establish oneness or aped, non-difference. So you go with this. If you come across a yukti or a vritti that is establishing, no, you are the body, you are the mind, you are the thoughts, that has to be slashed. This is called ped badhak yukti. Jo vi ped karandi hai usnu katna. These are the 2 techniques that are used in manan or in contemplation. So first one was Shravan, listening and believing fully. Number 2 is contemplation. Number 3 is called nididhyasan, which means practice and becoming. Practice and becoming. You've done the contemplation. Now that contemplation is becoming continuous. I am Brahm. And you've gotten to an inner state with your yuktiya where that is becoming firmer and firmer and firmer. That's practice. And at the very end of nididhyasan, you end up becoming that. It is a full and final, complete resolve. I am Brahm. I am not the body, mind, vidya, or anything like that. Right, so this is number 3. And all of this has to be done by what the guru has said. If one does these 3 steps, that person gets free, right? This is Gurmukh Mukta. Now let's establish exactly what we mean by Manmukh and Gurmukh. This is not a moral clause here. It has to do with a very technical aspect of how you are raised in this world. Manmukh means that you believe with full resolve all of the incorrect impressions about who you are that people gave you. Either they gave you these impressions in this life, or they gave you these impressions in your previous lives. Not by any of their own fault, but because this world is mangled in ignorance, you were born into it, people are preaching ignorance and they're passing on ignorance. They're living in ignorance, they're passing it on. Whether it was your parents or your guardians that told you you are a body and this is your name. Okay, you took on that incorrect impression. You're nameless and you're not the body, but you got this impression. So now it's been fed into your mind, you believe this. You are now becoming manmukh, you're mental mind facing. Then they tell you, I am your mother, I am your father, this is your sibling, this is your aunt, this is your chacha, this is your dad, blah, 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 mama, masi, whatever. These are your relatives. You take on that impression, you say, okay, these are my relatives. These are the strings I'm attached to. Then you go on further. These are your friends. This is what you like. This is what you don't like. All of these incorrect impressions piling, 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 piling to a point where now you're old enough and you're so comfortable with these impressions that you've been given, so comfortable that even if the guru tells you this is not you and they're giving you the correct impression, it is going to now take some repetition, some constant remembering, some shutting down of the vrittis to now re-remember who you really were. Have you noticed that sometimes if a child is born to a mother who is enlightened, for example, the children that were born to Madarasa, or the Chote Sahibzade that were doing Sangat of Mata Gujri ji all the time, what happens? At a very young age, it's established that they're not the body, mind, senses, vrittiyan, name, or whatever, and they know who they are. They're enlightened right from the get-go. But the problem happens because of our own karma. We enter a life trajectory where we're given incorrect impressions. But still, if on this trajectory you meet somebody who gives you the correct impression so that you can reverse all of your incorrect impressions, that is called a guru, and you can still be free. But remember something, as you're getting older, it is going to become harder to leave these impressions, not easier. It is always easier to get rid of incorrect impressions when they're laid on thinly, not when they're getting laid on thickly and you're starting to believe it, you're starting to become comfortable with it. So wherever you are, whatever time period you're in right now, you must make the effort for Brahm Gyan to happen to you right now, not wait longer. It's going to be detrimental to wait even longer. So that's what Gurmukh and Manmukh is. Manmukh means that the impressions that ignorant people gave you, you believe them. Gurmukh means that the impression that the Guru has given you, whether or not that's what you see or you hear, that is the statement that you're believing. And that is the statement that is ultimately true no matter what. So what happens? Gurmukh means that the Guru has told you you are Brahm. You are not the body, mind, senses, vrittiyan, thoughts, feelings, statuses, identity, names, any of that stuff. You are merely consciousness. Not the thing that consciousness watches, the consciousness itself. You are free. You are unbound. You will never die. And one thing to notice is when the Guru says you are Brahm, it means you're Brahm right now. As I'm speaking to you, you are Brahm right now as well. You're just believing the wrong thing about yourself. So now you need to switch gears, believe what the Guru has said, and this is a statement that has to become the highest priority in your life, the Guru statements. That's the only way you're going to reverse all a big bank of incorrect impressions that you've accumulated. Let this life be for realization. Let this life be for God, whatever sacrifice you have to make. You've lived so many lives for spouses, for children, for jobs and ambitions, for luxuries and for comforts, for statuses, for names, for recognition. And where has it gotten you? You're back in another body, doing it all over again. So let this life be for God realization, even if that means sacrificing your spouse, sacrificing children, sacrificing your ambition, job, sacrificing your luxury, sacrificing your comforts, sacrificing status and accomplishment and name and fame. If that has to be sacrificed, then let it be so. Let it be so. And then if all of this, if it's my ego that is hurt, then let it be so. If it has to break, then let it be so. If I have to stop all comparison and I have to realize I have to make any sacrifice possible, then let it be so. This time I'm living for something different. I already tried everything else. This is becoming a Gurmukh. I am the watcher, not the watched. This is a Manan Yukti. Objects outside of my body, objects outside of my physical body itself, the senses that I have, My mind, thoughts, good or bad, feelings, dreams, and this veil of ignorance, all of it is watched. I am the watcher. And if I'm the watcher, I cannot be the thing that I'm watching. The breath watching exercise, that meditation that Swamiji tells us, is to create distance between the two. Right now, it's so close that you actually do think that you're the breathing and the body. Yeah, in contemplation, you're like, yeah, it makes sense, I'm not the body. But when you go out and about, you really feel like you're the body. So what breath watching does is it starts to break this so you can recognize, hey, you're actually not that. Okay, then antar bahar sabd so jugata. One thing before Swamiji moved on, they said, vocalize everything that you want. Ardas is so important, and I can tell you this from personal experience. You have to vocalize what you want. Let's say it's the sacrifices that you're becoming more, okay, I have to make the sacrifice, then say it. I'm ready to make the sacrifice, vocalize it. And your isht is that cosmic consciousness. So whether sometimes it's even easier to do the ardas with your eyes open. Channel in, or two, the watcher here is also the consciousness out here. And when you've gotten a hold of that, then pray to it and say that this life is for you. And then vocalize that it is your emergence, your full realization is what I want. So every single day after your meditation, do ardas, do vocalization. Say thank you, have gratitude. Say that I will wait patiently. Everything that you learn in class, these are all things that you can say in ardas, and you'll see that this will make your meditations and your inner being so much more beautiful, and your process so much more. There's a magic to ardas. You have to try it to understand. Then antar bahar sabd so jugta. Sabd here refers to Brahm. Swamiji here gave the example of space. Space, not air, but actual space that everything is contained inside of. If you see, there is space inside of you, right? There's space inside of your body, and there's space outside of your body. The only difference between Akash and Brahm is Akash is not conscious. Brahm is also the same way permeating inside and outside of you, but is consciousness that is permeating inside and outside the body. However, a key thing to notice here is the space inside of your body and the space outside of your body, they're not connected in any way. They're not joined maybe at the rim of your body. It's continuous. Because if you were joined, then you'd be stuck in one place. But you're not. The space inside of your body and outside of your body is continuous. Just like that, God consciousness isn't different inside of you and different outside. It isn't different inside of another person or a Brahm Gyani or inside of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Maybe God consciousness is different. It's continuous. It's the same. Antar bahar sabd so jugta. This is what we call Vaheguru Ikras. Ikras Vaheguru sab andar bahar ot pot rav rahya. Ikras means it's continuous. There's no joining of different things. Swamiji here gave us the technique that we can use. It's contemplation, or observation of the Triputi. Triputi means three-formed thing. For example, observer, observation, observed. Observer, observation, observed. Or drashta, darshan, drishya. Gyata, gyan, geya. Parmata, parman, parmeya. Right? Let's say you're in an imagination. Your imagination is the observed. The vritti that is allowing the observation to happen is the observation, and the one that's watching, the mind, is the observer. However, the primal observer is the one that watches all these three things. You might have found this quote in Buddhist posters, observe the observer. They're referring to observation of the Triputi. Watcher, watching, watched. But what is knowing all these three things at the same time? You're looking at this orange. There's a mental observer, observation, and observed. But what thing is knowing all three things, observer, observation, and observed at the same time? What is allowing this threefold activity to even happen? That is the primal consciousness. And as you observe this, the observer, you observe this Triputi, you become Shivoham. That is Shivoham. That is Sadashiv, the very base fundamental knower, consciousness, eternal. And then the Mahavakya here is Shivoham. That Sadashiv is me. Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. Yeah, even in Chaupai Sahib, Guru Gobind Singh Ji talks about this. They say, Mahadev ko kahat sada siv, nirankar ka chinat nahipiv. God is not some body. In fact, we talk about this in every class. We are not the body. God is not the body. Also, when you see another body, whether it's an avatar's, God is not that body. Nirankar ka chinat nahipiv. Nirankar, the formless consciousness, you have no idea what that is. And you keep saying that Mahadev is Sadashiv, Mahadev is Sadashiv. No, go ask Mahadev who is Sadashiv, and he's going to tell you the same thing. This body is not Sadashiv. Isn't that what Guru Gobind Singh Ji says? This body is not God. Jo humko parmeshwar uch rahe. If you think this is me, you got it all wrong. Krishna says the same thing. He says, this is not me. This is not Krishna. What you see is not Krishna. What I know, what I am, that's Krishna. So beyond this body, beyond the breathing, beyond all of that, there is a Shiva. There is a Sadashiv, an eternal Shiv that is sitting with you. You are that. Similarly, Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Atam ras jih janahi. Atam ras jih janahi, so hai Khalas Dev. Who is Khalas? The one that knows the Atma to be Brahm. Prabh mein, moh mein, tas mein, ranchik na hin ped. Once you know Atma as Brahm, there is no difference between God, between Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and between you, the person that has become God realized. There is no difference. It is all the same. Manmukh bin se aave jai. Who comes and goes? Who is prone to birth and death? Manmukh. See, it's a very simple statement. If you believe the incorrect impressions that the world has given you, which are namely that you're a body, so and so foot tall, that you're a mind, this is your name, these are your relatives, this is how much money you collected. If you believe these incorrect impressions, you're going to end up dying. And you're going to have to take birth again. Because you believe that. The body, but the thing is, the body is recycled. The body is not going to die. It's just going to end up rotting or maybe burnt. It's going to turn into its base minerals. It's going to end up feeding the whole planet. It's good. It gets recycled. That's fine. Atma never dies. Vaheguru never dies. So what's the thing inside, in between the body and Atma, that is doing this whole thing? The mind and its incorrect beliefs are doing this whole illusion. The mind itself is an illusion, and it's playing out this entire illusion of birth and death. And it all happens with the primal ignorance. The fact that you don't know that you're Brahm is the reason why this whole illusion even happens. Nanak Gurumukh Sach Samai, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji's final declaration is that person who believes the Guru and only the Guru statements, contemplates it, practices it, and becomes that statement, that person becomes absorbed into the true reality and realizes who they are. Not Gunanak Gurmukh Sach Samay. Finally, a note on the Guru. Vaheguru is Nirgun Nirakar. Vaheguru is formless consciousness. Nirgun, without any qualities, without any pollution, without the three gunas, without anything. But the Guru, the Satguru, is Nirgun Nirakar and Sargun Sakar. See, when something is formless and is without the three gunas, how are you going to interact with it? How are you going to know about it? But it's the Satguru through compassion. It's a good thing that the Satguru looks like us. It's a good thing that he speaks like us. It's a good thing that he talks at our level so that we can understand how we can transcend. That's his compassion. So don't think. One thing you have to be careful of, the more antiquity, the older something gets, the more people start to praise it like God. The more in antiquity something is, the more special it becomes. Why? Because it becomes a stronger imagination, so far removed from what you are, what you look like. But the Guru's compassion is that he looks like you, that he walks like you, that he talks like you, that he eats food like you. So that he's at your level so he can tell you how to transcend. But from our perspective, that's his compassion. And we have to realize that Satguru that looks like us, walks like us, talks like us, that's Nirgun Vaheguru having become compassionate so that we can interact with it, with them. Okay, so finally, it's sit at the sanctuary and feet of your Guru, love them unconditionally, and wait patiently. Right, that's the Gurmukh is the way to go. So that's it for today. Please forgive me for my mistakes. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.